Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie, and today is one of my favorite days of the year for recording because I get to talk about my entire previous year's reading. I get to talk about my favorite books, my most disappointing, my least favorite. You will see a lot of these videos coming up very soon, and I am super excited to film this kind of video today. So first I need to apologize for the lighting. I know it's a little weird. I have my window open. It's a little weird outside kind of looking. It's very cloudy and kind of a weird color outside, and it's just kind of affecting the video. I'm sorry, I do the best that I can. Whenever it comes to my best books of the year, I'm doing something different this year. Let me first off say that I read 235 books in 2020. That totaled to be 68,102 pages. That is a lot of reading. It's a lot of books. And whenever I was going through all of the books that I read, I have quite a few 5-star reads. I have a whole lot of 4-star reads. I have a ton of 3 or 3.5-star reads. And I've got a couple 2 and 1-star reads, and we're definitely going to get to those because I'm going to roast them. But whenever it comes to my favorites, I didn't have books that just like, oh my god, they just stood out among the pack. There's like one series that really did. Other than that, I just had a lot of really good reads, and I had a hard time choosing like what to put on my best of the best. Like, I have a lot of really good books that I really highly enjoyed this year, but none of them were just like, oh my god, like this is the best thing ever. That or I had too many of them. I don't know. But so this year, I'm just going to do series that I really enjoyed, new to me authors I enjoyed. I am going to have favorite books, but I'm also going to have favorite authors. So let's go ahead and just get to this whole clusterfuck. The first series I want to talk about that I really enjoyed is the Royally Screwed series by Emma Chase. This is a royalty romance. He is a prince. She is a down-on-her-luck business owner. She owns her own bakery, and she's going under. And, of course, he is her knight in shining armor. There is nothing that is just like, oh my god, this is so unique or anything about this book, but it is just really good. I flew through this book. I could not get through it fast enough. I enjoyed it. It wasn't super angsty. It was very sweet. There was some really frustrating moments and some really adorable moments, and it was just overall really good. This entire series I read in a week. There's like 3 books, and I read them like, in reality, I read them in about 3 days. I read them back to back, and I read them super fast, and they were just really sweet to get through. Obviously, this is not from 2020. This is an older book, but I was super nervous to read this, and if you are like me where you've heard some kind of mixed reviews or you're not sure, this is one of the very first romance book covers that I remember, like vividly remember, and I'd been wanting to read it, but then I kind of got nervous to read it because it was so hyped up, and I never did, and I'm so disappointed that I didn't read this before now because it was really good. The next on my best of 2020 list is going to be J.R. Ward, The Sinner. Really, you can just put J.R. Ward down. She's always going to be in my top favorites list. Sinner is like one of my top 3 favorite J.R. Ward Black Dagger Brotherhood books of all time. I absolutely adored Sin. He was just a damaged hero, and I am a sucker for a damaged hero. Zadist will always have my heart. He is my number 1, but I truly loved Sin, and I just really enjoyed this book. The next book that I have to talk about is a standalone, and that is Inappropriate by Vi Keelan. I read this book all the way back in January of last year, and I still really vividly remember this one. It is about Grant in Ireland. Ireland is a newsroom reporter, or she works in television, and she is on vacation at this private place with her friends, and there is a photo of her taken topless because I believe it is a like nude beach or something that they went to. Anyway, the photo somehow gets uploaded to one of her social media accounts, and she's fired for inappropriate misconduct. And she gets super mad about this situation because it was posted to her private account. It wasn't a public account. And she gets really mad, and she writes her boss. She also happens to write it while she's drunk, and she's very honest and very blunt. and it starts up this little banter between the two, and it's really cute. It is very cute workplace romance, but it also contains super heavy subjects. She is really wanting a family. She's wanting to be married. She's wanting the kids. She's wanting the whole 9 yards, and he does not want to have children at all. Like, he is very adamant about not having kids, and she has to figure out why that's the case. And there is some trigger warnings for the loss of a child in this one. It broke my heart, but it was just a little heavier than I thought it was going to be, but it was also really funny at moments, and it is just, overall, it's a really, really great book. The next series I have to talk about is the Tainted Black Duet by Shanora Williams. This is a best friend's father romance. It is an interracial couple, and they are freaking adorable. I loved this book so much. The whole age gap, she's known him since she was like 12 or 13. He was happily married, and she has always kind of had a crush on him. Things kind of change whenever she turns 18. He loses his wife. She is there to kind of comfort him in a very somewhat platonic way, and it's a relationship that spans years. It's kind of back and forth, like they start a little something something, and then it ends, and then they start it again, and the best friend doesn't know throughout this whole time, and so of course there's this big conflict. There is a second book because the ending of the first will have you screaming at the top of your head. Let me just tell you, that was the worst ending to a first book I've ever seen in my life. But I'm actually really glad that she did it, because it gave me another book with these characters that I just fell in love with. Highly, highly recommend if you're into taboo. It's a really good book. The next book that I have to talk about is Behind the Bars by Brittany C. Cherry. There is really absolutely no surprise about this one. I have been talking about it for the last couple of months. It broke my heart. You guys saw me bawl my eyes out on camera during that Kindle readathon, one of the readathons. I was just bawling my eyes out while reading this. It was so much more emotional than I was ever expecting. It starts out in high school. This is also an interracial couple. The guy is very nerdy. He's got a stutter. He's black. He's skinny. And he's made fun of, and he's picked on a lot. The girl is kind of a beauty queen type of gal. She's a singer. Everybody loves her, adores her. She's the new girl. She's popular. And she falls in love with his music. And the two of them have this beautiful relationship, but she ends up having to move because her mom is forcing her to. And all of a sudden, he cuts off contact with her, and she doesn't hear from him for like 7 years. And she has no idea what happened after she left. And it is just such a heartbreaking story, but it's beautiful, and you have to read it. The next thing that I have to talk about is not a series, not a book, it's an entire author. I adore this author. She's one of my very favorite authors. Like, seriously, I found her last year and I have been obsessed. That is Fiona Cole. This is Voyeur, which is the first book in a series. I have read basically all of her works. I have not read Shame or Shame Me Not. I haven't read that Duet, I think it is. That is the only one I haven't read, and I am planning on reading it this year. But I have literally read every single thing else that she has written, and I can without a doubt say that I highly recommend her. All of her books have been 4 and 5 stars each. I think maybe 1 or 2 has been 3 stars, but even then it was a really good book. Like, this author just does it for me. I cannot recommend her enough. Everything she writes, you need to read. She's just really, really good. The next book I have to talk about is going to be Top Secret by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. Is this any surprise either? I don't think so. I am in love with this book. It is... I don't even really know how to describe it. It is a male-male romance. There is a guy who has a girlfriend. He's had her for a couple of years, and she asked for a threesome for her birthday, and he's just like, hell yeah, let's do it. And she asked for one between him and another male and her. And so he goes off and he starts finding somebody to have a threesome with, and it turns into more, because the person that he finds, he ends up being attracted to, and they have some interactions that's just between the two of them, and it kind of feels like cheating a tiny bit. It's not. There's no cheating in this book. I was really worried about that, because it is a male-male female romance that turns into a male-male romance, and sometimes that can kind of be a little bad. But this just did not disappoint me at all. It turns into the cutest male-male romance. Also, it is an enemies to lovers, because the guy he's talking to happens to be a fraternity brother that he hates. So it is perfection. This book is perfection. The next book that I have to talk about is as part of a series. It is Grip by Kennedy Ryan. I believe it is a total of 3 books. There's a novella, which is Flow, which I highly recommend as well. There is Grip. I actually read Grip before I read Flow, and I kind of like that I did, but a lot of people enjoy reading Flow first. And then there is the 3rd book, which I believe is called Still. I haven't quite worked up the nerve to read it, because I know it's ridiculously emotional, and Grip just ripped my heart out so much that I'm scared to go through it again, and they're at a happy place, so I'm like, let's just leave them there for a little while. Like, I'm nervous to start this next one. But so Grip is another interracial couple romance. It is about a guy who is a rapper. He's not like up and coming, like he has albums out, like he is very popular, and there's a girl who is part of his management team. She also happens to be his best friend's little sister. I believe it's little sister. No, twin sister? I think it's twin sister. Yes, it is. It is twin sister. And so he has known her for a very long time. They had a prior relationship for a couple of weeks in the summer, and that is Flow. That's the novella. That's their romance that summer. And he has ever since, he's wanted her back, and she keeps pushing him away. She keeps him at arm's length. He doesn't really understand why. And it is just very, very well done. There is some police brutality in this a little bit. There is, some things that that happen that are done very, very respectably. And also, Kennedy Ryan is a Black author, so she is an own voice author, and I highly, highly respect her viewpoint. I think she does it so well on being able to put in all of the things that Black people go through that white people may write about, may think about, but necessarily can't understand. And so I highly value the fact that she has all of that in there, and it's just so emotional and so sweet, and I love that book. The next book I have to talk about is one of the few books that really, really stood out to me this year, and that is Autoboyography by Christina Lauren. It is the only Christina Lauren book that I have given 5 stars to. Only Christina Lauren book that really I like, but they did this book so well. It has so many of my favorite aspects in it. It has a cult relationship, which I am obsessed with cults. If y'all didn't know, like, obsessed. If I'm watching TV, I'm typically watching a true crime documentary about cults. I love it. I love Scientology. I love the not necessarily love Scientology, but like love learning about it, and like how people's minds can get so manipulated and so deceived. Like, it's fascinating to me. Like, the Children of God cult, holy crap. Like, he had his members thinking it was perfectly okay to have sex with children. Mind blown. So anyway, sorry. Cults fascinate me. Anyway, so yes, Autoboyography. It is about the Mormon church. It is about a gay guy who is in here. There's a bisexual person who's basically very okay with his sexuality. His mother is an ex-Mormon, and she knows that he's bisexual, but he hasn't really come out, mainly because they live in a Utah town where being gay is not okay. And so he happens to meet another guy who's in a writing class. He's the TA in that class, and they become friends. Somehow the Mormon boy finds out that the other guy is bisexual. I'm not really going to give into spoilers or, you know, a whole bunch of that, but it kind of starts this relationship, this forbidden, quiet relationship. He's not just any like member of the Mormon church. This TA isn't. He is the pastor's son, so that makes it 10 times worse. It is so well done. One of the best books I've ever read. I think everybody should read it. I love this book so much. The next book that I have to talk about is going to be my most controversial book on this channel. Some people are offended just by the nature of this book, which is okay, and is definitely not everybody's cup of tea. That is The Wild by Kay Webster. It was one of my favorite books of this year. Also a very, very big standout in my opinion because it is so forbidden. If you didn't know, it is a incest book between a father and a daughter. Yeah, it is well done. It is disturbing and also extremely hot, which kind of speaks to how twisted my mind is, I guess. But I just adored the book. Highly recommend. If you're into that even a tiny bit, like, go read this book. It will disturb you in like the most delicious way. I don't know. Anyway, it's really hot. The next thing I have to talk about is also going to be another author who is quickly becoming one of my very favorites of all time. That is going to be Pete Angelico. This is the first in her Hard to Love series. It's called Wrecking Ball. If you are a fan of Mariana Zapata, if you're a fan of slow burn, sexual tension, romances that aren't dark, aren't like dirty or taboo or anything like that, like, this is the opposite of the previous book. This is a really sweet romance about a guy who's in the NFL. He's the quarterback, and he has his nephew that he's taking care of full-time, and so he's needing to hire a nanny. And there's a girl who was recommended. He keeps going through nannies like crazy because he's very grumpy, broody, that kind of guy. And this girl comes in and she applies and she gets the job, and he immediately dislikes her because he is attracted to her, and he treats her like crap. But she is so good with his nephew that he keeps her, and she finally like is like, I'm done with your crap, and he has to apologize, and it starts this relationship. So it's kind of hate to love, slow burn, sexual tension, forced proximity, and it is just so sweet how he becomes like such a caring, like, he is all about the heroine. Like, he loves her so much whenever he finally gets to know her. Like, he's so protective of her, but then he turns into a major asshole. The ending of this book really frustrated me. A lot of her books kind of frustrate me. Like, the conflict that happens is so, it's good. I mean, it's good because it's not what I expect of her, and it's really frustrating whenever it happens, but it's good. I will say there is surprise pregnancy in this one. That's the only one that I've seen that has surprise pregnancy in it. All of her books are really good, though. Not just this. She's got a Malibu University, like a new adult slow burn romance series that's really good. She's got You Can Have Manhattan is another super good book by her. Slow burn, forced proximity, grumpy hero. Like, that is her domain. Like, she writes grumpy, brooding, sexual tension that just crackles. It is really, really good series. Highly recommend. And I always save the best for last, so you guys have to know what's coming. It is my favorite duet of all time. That is The Devil and the Devil's Advocate. This is by Ashley Jade. This is a dark romance. It is forbidden. It is taboo. It has male, female scenes. It has male scenes. It is a male-female romance. It does end in a happily ever after, but it is dark. You don't know if any of the guys are good guys. You don't know what's happening. There's murder. There is revenge. There is... this book has it all. It is the hottest book I've ever read. It has some forced scenes. I mean, it's got everything, y'all. Like, this book has got, it's got everything. And it is the hottest, most obsessed book I've ever read. Like, I am just, you gotta read this. It is my favorite book. Like, seriously, it's my favorite series, probably of all time. So good. All right, so that's it. Those are my favorites. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorites were below. Let me know if there's a book that I have to read that I haven't read yet. Y'all know my taste by now. Let me know in the comments below what you think. We'll talk there.